Welcome to the Empress Unfiltered, where I will absolutely probably be oversharing, giving you way too much details, sharing the quiet in between parts. I want unfiltered because I want to give you the backhand of what it's really like over the last year in business to open a med spa, come out of healthcare into a whole different realm, and give you just the background, the good, the bad, the in between, the messy, the real, the raw. That's why we're going in unfiltered. So this is probably, definitely not probably, a dopamine-filled idea. A little bit behind about me. I guess I do have ADHD, so this is probably, yes, an ADHD dopamine-filled idea where I was like, let me really share what this is like and how we got here. So if that resonates with you, cool. If it doesn't, cool too. More than welcome to exit or turn me off. But if you know somebody who this might resonate with, feel free to share. Would really appreciate it. But that being said, I'm going to give you a little introduction about myself. My name is Erica Martinez. I am a board-certified nurse practitioner, family nurse practitioner. I have a doctorate degree. I've been in healthcare for 12 years. I started off as an RN at Cedars-Sinai at 21. And after that, went back, got my master's, started teaching, worked in medical devices for a period of time. After that, got my postmaster's, family nurse practitioner, then transitioned into palliative care. From then, went on into UCLA, helped to build an adult sickle cell program, and helped to contribute to research. While all of this was happening, though, in that process, I always knew aesthetics was the route in which I wanted to go. Back in the day when I was in RN school, I worked at Sephora, and I loved it. I loved the combination of making people feel beautiful, and I loved science too at the exact same time, hence why I was in nursing. And I wanted a way to merge those realms together, and that's where aesthetics comes in. For me, it gives me the best of both worlds. I get to help people feel like a more radiant version of themselves, and more promoting anything, I'm promoting self-love and what I do. And I don't want to change who people are. I just want to enhance what they like and make them feel radiant and make that inner beauty come outward. And also love research and science, and that's where aesthetics comes in. But that being said, I know what you're probably wondering, why podcast, why unfiltered? Well, I want people to share the messy middle. I love a good success story, don't get me wrong. I love watching people make it and talk about that, but what you see online, or at least what I've seen, is I worked really hard, I did all these things, and then yes, my business took off. But nobody talks about the messy middle. Nobody talks about the building something from nothing. So that's where, in my reality of like what I'm going to talk about today, opening a med spa would be the equivalent of building an airplane while trying to fly it at the exact same time. Well, at least for me, that was my experience over the last year. I want to give you a breakdown of the in-betweens. Nobody talks about yes, I had a great day and then I was crying in my car. Like we don't get the in-between. You only get the finished, everything's awesome and dandy. No, I want the real authentic version of people and what they're sharing. So that's what I'm here to give you today. I feel like over the last year, I've learned a lot of valuable lessons in regards to what it takes to open a business, start from nothing, I came in with no client base, and I built it. And I built it over the course of the 12 months. I'm still continuously building, like I said, building an airplane while flying it. But that being said, I've learned a lot, and I just want to share what I've learned. I want to share all the in-betweens, and if I get off topic, I apologize. I do have ADHD. I'm doing my best to keep it controlled, but sometimes I do act like a feral raccoon with Wi-Fi, so bear with me. But that being said, I want to give all the in-betweens. When I opened a business, what I had to learn more than anything, no amount of healthcare experience prepared me for this transition. That's number one. And I think everyone who's looking into jumping into a med spa space needs to understand that. Healthcare experience taught me how to be an amazing nurse practitioner. It taught me how to critically think. It taught me how to move quickly on my feet. It taught me how to deal with intense situations and not fold. But that being said, opening a business is a huge transition. Going from healthcare provider to wearing 100 different hats is a very, very large transition. And I can say that because I've lived over the last 12 months. I opened last June and I left UCLA in July, and I've been here ever since. But things that people need to understand when they jump into this field is if you have no client base, just little tidbit I want to start by sharing. Don't be me and go invest in really, really, really expensive lasers and all these things with no client base, because you are going to have to hustle like hell to be able to pay your bills, pay your personal bills, and be able to function. There's nothing like 3 a.m. panic attacks, and I keep saying there's a difference between 9 to 5 broke and business broke. 9 to 5 broke, at least you know when your next paycheck is coming in. Business broke, you don't know when that's coming in. That's on you. So that's a huge reality. And I didn't come in with like a huge financial backing. I have gone through hell and back. I have no problem saying it. I've made mistakes and failures, but I feel like those failures have helped me become the person that I am today. And sometimes I go back and think, oh, I wish I could have done this differently. And then I think about it and I'm like, what would you have done differently? That's all you knew at the time. So I look back now, but the whole purpose of this is anybody who's interested in opening a med spa, or anybody who, for example, patients, a lot of what I've learned too, jumping on one topic to the other, trying to stay on task, but anywho, what I've learned is like a lot of patients come into my space and they have no idea what product was used, who saw them, the credentials of the person treating them. I think it is important for you to screen your injector. You need to make sure that they are certified to be able to do what they're doing. They should at a minimum have an RN, NP, MD, DO. They need a medical licensure to be able to practice aesthetics and do injectables. And I think that's very important that patients understand that. I also think it's extremely important that patients are aware of what products are being used on their face. I think that's essential. It is your face. It is your body. Treat it as such. I see a lot of people who will simply come in and they look at a price and they want to know why it's so much cheaper elsewhere. You need to understand what products are FDA approved, what products actually cost, and what is appropriate pricing in your area. Just because something is cheap doesn't mean it is a good product or that it will be done correctly by who's doing it. So I think that's essential. I also think another essential thing that people need to know, if I give any tidbits today, it is ask what aesthetic training your provider is doing. Don't knock the people who have been in aesthetics less than others, because your 10-year injector, if they can't tell you the last class they've taken versus your 1 to 2 year injector who was like, I did this, this, and this, and this, and this, I would go with the 1 to 2 year injector because their education is fresh. So I hope I'm not pissing people off today, but I think that's super important to know. Also, for people who are trying to do this, like I said, you need to be prepared that your first year, you're going to be reinvesting like 90% of what you make back into the business. So do not run and quit your job, or else you're going to have 3 a.m. panic attacks of how am I going to pay this, this, and this, and this, and this. Because when all you have to depend on is you, there's nobody coming in to come under you and give you a safety net when all you have to depend on is you. And that's a harsh reality that I had to learn over the last year, was nobody was coming to save me and I had to save myself. So that means I had to hustle like hell. I had to get up even when I didn't feel like it. I had to keep going even when the space was empty. And that was hard. That was real hard. Nobody prepares you for you're good at what you do, yet nobody comes to see you because they don't know you exist. But also, that taught me something. People won't come to see you just because you exist. You have to put yourself out there. And that's another thing that I've been having to learn. I'm always been a little bit socially awkward. So that being said, coming out and filming and going on social media was not normal for me. You have to get very comfortable in that realm. A lot of people find their injectors through Reels, TikTok, Instagram. So social media is extremely important, and it's something that if this is something you want to do, you have to get very comfortable with, even when it's awkward. Which led me to why I was like, okay, you know what? I really want to share what I've learned and why I want to come do this podcast. So I have a few episodes going moving forward. I also, in my space, meaning we work in aesthetics, so you see a lot of body dysmorphia. You see a lot of people who want treatments they don't need. Something that I pride myself on is the fact that my ability to say no. Make sure no matter who you go to, whether it's your local injector or you find me through this podcast and you want to come see me, you need somebody who's comfortable saying no. Not every treatment is appropriate for every patient, and I think that's something that needs to be talked about now. That being said, I see body dysmorphia quite frequently, and I'm connected with a clinical psychologist who I send referrals to in case that's ever needed. I hope with time, I think that's going to be my 4th episode, but she's supposed to come on and do a segment with me so you can get to know her and we can talk a little bit more in depth about that. But over this series, I will be sharing numerous things. I'll be going into different topics, but I just kind of wanted to give you an overview of what's to come. And I think sharing in this space is going to benefit a lot of people, and at least I hope it does. If it prevents one person from making some of the same mistakes I did, then I did my job, no matter how uncomfortable filming this podcast might be, or how it may not resonate with everyone. But if it resonates with that one person and I can save them from making some of my same mistakes, then by all means, I did my job. That being said, when you open a business and you want to do this, my best recommendation is to start small. So do a local solo salon. Don't jump into a huge retail space because rent is brutal in this area. And unless you're loaded with financial backing, if you're trying to do it on your own, it is extremely challenging. And I've learned that the hard way over the last year. I made it somehow, sweat, blood, and tears, but it's still a work in progress. And I continue to, as I've learned for the last year, you're constantly, the thing about entrepreneurship that like people don't really tell you, what you're really doing in the first year is you're building your system. You're building the way in which you are going to make things successful in the long term. So a lot of what the stress of business is, if you haven't already done therapy, it's literally going to be opening every single wound of which is unhealed. I need to give discounts, like lowering your prices when people ask you if you can give a better deal, because realistically you have like some type of money scarcity of like, well, this is new to me and like they're here in my chair and I want to treat them and I want them to become my patient. How do I convert this into a successful consult? And I think it's very important that you stand your ground and know your worth and what you have to offer. And I think that's super important, especially when you realize how many like shady things around the area are pricing things lower, or like how close we are to the border where people have the option to get product and things cheaper. Stand your ground is the biggest thing I can tell people who are opening a med spa. And also understand that not every partnership will be aligned for you. And that was another huge one for me. Also, when you're reinventing your systems and you're doing things, you're going to have to come to the realization that the revenue that you generate for the business is going to constantly keep going into the business. So that's why I'm saying unless you're coming in with a huge financial backing, keep your day job until it takes off. That way you are not 3 a.m. panicking of how you're going to live your life and pay things. Because nobody talks about the ugly. They only talk about the success stories. So I'm here to talk about it all. And from somebody who did have those 3 a.m. panic attacks after they gave up their sole source of income and solely went into this wholeheartedly on their own as like a one-man band, doing the treatments, checking out the people, all of that, it's going to test you and stretch you in every way possible, and things you didn't even realize bothered you internally are all going to come to the surface. So be prepared for that. But if you were to ask me, would I go back and do this again? Absolutely, in a heartbeat, because I have wanted to do this for years, and I'm glad that I took the leap of faith. I just wish there was somebody to sit me down and share some of the things that I have learned over the last year. Key tidbits of information, and that's why this podcast is coming out. So if that resonates with you, cool. I just wanted to give a brief introduction of what's to come. I'm going to start with like little small segments, that just little tidbits, and like sharing life as a nurse practitioner and entrepreneur, and just life in general. I want it to be unfiltered. I'm a single mom. I have 2 kids, and I want to be able to share everything and collaborate with others who want to come on my podcast and talk, and that's open to different business owners. I'm really big on manifestation and mindset. So that being said, a lot of how I got to this point was through manifestation, visualization. I don't know why I'm stuttering or having difficulty enunciating today. Maybe it's because I'm slightly nervous putting that out there, but I'm being as transparent and authentic as I can. So that being said, manifestation was a huge part of how I got here to this point. I believed and visualized that I could have this before it was even a thing, until it finally became a thing. That being said, I really think what you put into your mind is so important, and positivity is key, especially if you're going to open a business, because it's going to touch on every emotional wound you've ever had until it fully takes off. So that's what I'm here to share. So if that's your thing, like you're trying to open a med spa, if you're into manifestation, or you just want to be low-key nosy, you're just curious of what I have to say, then keep listening, because there's more to come. And thank you for listening this far and allowing me to share today. So, toodles.